There is no hurt like church hurt because churches are supposed to be a safe place and church leaders should be safe people. We have this concept that everyone who's a part of a church should be acting like Jesus, but just because someone goes to church does not mean that they even know Jesus. According to Matthew 7:22, someone can even be performing signs and wonders and not make it into heaven because they do not know God. Jesus said the world will know us not by our signs and wonders, not by the badge that we wear, not by our charisma, but by our love. John 13:35. Personally, I grew up in a small church where everyone knew each other, everyone looked out for each other, everyone seemed to have this genuine heart for the Lord. It was a very safe and healthy environment. However, when I was 22 years old, I was fresh out of college, or pretty fresh out of college, and I moved to a church in the Deep South. I had spent a weekend with the staff during the interviewing process, and I was excited about the move. The pastor explained to me all about the church, the finances of the church, the size of the church, the atmosphere of the church, and the excitement of the student department, because that's the world that I was going to be overseeing. However, when I arrived that summer, things weren't quite the same as the picture that had been painted. But even more than that, there was something in the atmosphere, and I knew it was not right. About 6 months in, I started sharing with an older lady in the church like a prayer warrior, and she started crying, literally crying, and saying how I was right. Something had happened at the church in the past, and it was sin. It was still going on. No details, just confirmation. A couple of days later, during a staff meeting, I started sharing about some things that I was seeing and feeling. The lead pastor, face extremely red, I'll never forget it, stood up and started accusing me of lying, saying horrible things about me, definitely raising his voice and saying how one day I would stand before God. It was an abusive, very hurtful situation. Within a couple of days, I was asked to leave immediately, no severance pay. Within weeks after my move, however, there was a major church split and an affair, a sexual affair, was uncovered. I was right, yet I was the one who was abused. My biggest shock of that whole event wasn't the pain of what I experienced, I don't think, but the heartbreak of something like that happening in the church. I had never seen anything like it. I truly thought people loved each other, they looked out for each other, and like my childhood church, we were all working together to see God's kingdom come. For the first time, my eyes had been opened, sadly, to a dark side of the church. Since then, I have been a part of some amazing churches, but I've also, probably like many of you guys, had a couple of other very heartbreaking, painful experiences take place. So what do we do when we experience hurt in the church hurt? Here's 4 things. Number 1, be honest before God. Let Him be your counselor. In John chapter 14, Jesus is talking about how He's getting ready to leave the world. He tells His disciples in verse 16, when I leave, I will ask the Father, and He will give you another counselor to help you and to be with you forever. About 2 months later, the Holy Spirit was given on the day of Pentecost. He is our counselor. Before you go to anyone else, go to God. Get in His Word. Be honest before Him. People are important, but there is no counselor like the Holy Spirit. John chapter 10 reminds us that we can know God's voice. He will speak to us just like He knows our voice. Go to God. Number 2, be still before God. Listen. Let Him be your defender. Doing nothing is one of the best things and yet the hardest things we can do when we experience pain. Psalms 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. This is a call for us to trust in God, knowing that He sees it all and He is in control, even when we don't feel like He is. Our biggest battle in any hurtful situation is never with the other person, but it's with our own emotions, knowing that we need to be still in the middle of that battle, do nothing, and let God be our defender. Number 3, be careful where you land. Let God be your shepherd. Be careful where you land. We need the church. We need to be a part of a fellowship. However, like I said earlier, just because someone calls himself a Christian and a church calls themselves a church does not mean that they even know God. We've all seen people that call themselves Christians, but they do not act like Christ. Psalms 23 reminds us that the Lord is our shepherd. He will lead us and take us to the right community of believers. We have to trust Him with that. Number 4, One of my favorite promises in the Bible found in Philippians 1:6. Number 4, be confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. Let God be your healer. Let him do a work in you. We bring our hearts to God, our pain to God, our disappointments, and we let him finish the good work that he promised to complete. He is faithful and he will do it. So what are some practical steps to do when dealing with church hurt? I'm going to talk about that next time in our next post. I've run out of time. It's all in the Bible, and the Bible is always right. I'll see you guys next time.